What's going on, world? It's your boy at Big Game James _36, and I'm here with Greg McGarity. And each and every week during the college football season, we come to you with the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Drive This Selection presented by Toyota, where we talk about the week that was and the week that is in college football, and as it relates to the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl played here January 2nd in prime time in Jacksonville, Florida, where we pit an ACC team versus an SEC team, and just like every week this year, the only thing that you can expect is the unexpected. I do think there's still going to be a lot of intrigue in this these conference championship games coming up, but a lot of things that maybe were a little bit more black and white became a little more gray after this past weekend in the SEC and both the ACC. We'll talk about a few of those different things, but the one thing that I want everybody to make sure that they go and do is go purchase your tickets for the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, because no matter what happens, we will have two really, really good teams coming to bat, playing us with great storylines and a lot of different things. We're going to also show you how to beat the experts so that you can have a more informed opinion than those, because clearly some of those guys still don't know what they're talking about. They do not listen to this show. And again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you can't get more insight than the CEO of the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl with Greg McGarity right here. So, how did you enjoy last weekend?
I tell you what, it was another great weekend of college football, and it all started Friday night, that 8 overtime game. I've never seen obviously I think it's the second longest game in NCAA overtime history. So, a game of failure towards the end, and those that enjoy watching teams run back and forth as far as from one end zone to the other after one overtime, they probably ran more yards going from one end zone to the other, switching after overtimes than they did in the entire game.
I think they got to change that rule. Like, just this home field advantage. Just put the dang, like you get the first one maybe on the other side, but after that, every other overtime needs to be on the home side. But that was Georgia Tech playing with a lot of grit. I see why they made a great hire there. That's 2 years in a row that they've played Georgia extremely tough. Had Georgia dead to rights, but also just shows why Kirby Smart is a really, really good coach. Those guys do embody his tenacity and not wanting to quit. But had Georgia lost that game, they would have probably lost all hope. Yeah, well, no, because they still got the college. They still had the SEC championship.
They would have had to have beaten Texas in the final game.
On the ACC side, game that really kind of shook up things and made things a little bit more interesting would be the Miami-Syracuse game. Miami had Syracuse up by 20. They were up by 21. Syracuse comes back, wins the game. Very, very tough Syracuse squad. Kind of shifts our pool a little bit. Obviously, that loss knocked Miami out of the ACC championship game, out of controlling their own destiny. They have a very, 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 very long shot. Let the College Football Commission say they have no shot of making the college football playoff. But who knows how things shake up with those things. But there was something that we talked about last time about kind of just automatic bids and things that we're going to get with projection. How important would it be for the Gator Bowl to have at least, obviously we can't have a rematch. Right. We can't have a preview. But how important would it be for us to get one of the Florida teams into this bowl game?
Well, it'd be outstanding. What we have to remember is on the ACC side that the Orlando Bowl has really the first pick. So they may want, Miami, which would leave the other teams in play that way. I think getting back to the ACC championship game, I really believe if Miami had a won, then the winner and the loser of the ACC championship would have been in the college football playoff. And now after listening to Ward Manuel, the chairman of the committee, comment on whether if Clemson defeated SMU, then is SMU kind of guaranteed a spot? And he said, no, that was another point for review. And so I guess you could say they would be reviewed, their resume would be reviewed against Alabama. Now, right now, SMU's ahead of Alabama.
Right.
So that kind of doesn't make logic. It doesn't make any sense to me, because if they actually jump Alabama over SMU, they should have already done that already based on 12 games. So that's where I think that hopefully the privilege to play in a conference championship does not damage your ability to play in the conference championship, play in the CFP. It shouldn't count against you.
Right.
So stranger things have happened like we saw last year. And so, we're not really going to assume anything.
Speaking of that, isn't it? I find it ironic that now everybody in the ACC is in the uproar that somebody may get. It's kind of like, but those same exact people were full of vitriol. You had your chance, win your games, but now it's always funny. It's no fun when a rabbit got the gun. I can sit here and laugh, chuckle inside, even though I'm still hurt by last year and this year as well. But it would be amazing to have two ACC teams in there. But right now, everything that people argued about over the summer, that is this a Big Ten SEC invitational, that I would actually like to see if Army wins. I don't know why that should not be I know that's not going to happen, but just for America, that would probably be really, really good
no doubt.
Just to have them in there.
Underdog.
Considering that there are a lot of 3-loss teams and a lot of other stuff that's going on. Conference championships coming up. The SEC champion have the SEC championship rematch, Georgia versus Texas. Yeah. Georgia kind of handled Texas pretty good last time. Texas just got their first win over a ranked opponent. They lost the other times they played against a ranked opponent. What does that game have any bearing on us? Say Texas is to beat Georgia. Is Georgia automatically in there, or will Georgia kind of come to our pool?
Well, I think Georgia stays up because they already have a win over Texas in Austin. Okay. So I know this is a neutral site, so I don't think they would be penalized. I think they would stay up because then their only losses would have been against teams that are in the top 12. And one of those would have been Texas, and obviously Ole Miss and Mississippi State. But having that win over Texas and a win over Clemson, who's playing, who's ranked, comes into play as well. So I think they stay up. I haven't really read anything about them dropping out. Okay. I think it's more or less what happens. The ACC championship game is going to be the game that everybody pays attention to for college football playoff. And unfortunately, it starts at 8:00 Saturday night. So that'll be the last game played that day.
Which helps with the rankings. I mean, I was going to watch it anyway. I was going to Charlotte, but that kind of got changed a little bit. But so also we have the G5 championship. It's not called the G5 championship, but UNLV versus Boise State. Yep. That game, if Boise wins, they should solidify themselves and have a bye.
Played at Boise State.
Oh, on the turf. With one of the hottest up-and-coming offensive coordinators that's kind of taking everybody by storm with the go-go offense and Brendan Marion. Should be a good game. Doesn't affect us here. Well, I guess it would affect because what if Boise is upset? What would that do to the college football playoff? And does that mean another SEC team slides into their spot, or could Miami possibly slide into their spot?
No, I just think they aren't. You have to look where they're ranked right now. And UNLV is ranked 20th. For them to make that big of a jump, if they were in the 14, 13, 12 area, I think that can happen. But Boise State, if right now they're 10, they're going to drop out, obviously, as they lose because they wouldn't be the champion. But I just don't think there's enough room for them to make up that amount of space to knock off really Alabama, because they're the last team in is Alabama right now. So I don't see that changing. I don't think they'd jump Ole Miss. I don't see them jumping South Carolina. So I think it'd be very difficult for them, Boise State, to still stay in. Obviously, UNLV would represent, they'd be the highest ranked group of 5 since Tulane got beat this week, but last week. So a lot of things in play there, but I think it's pretty well set. I just think it comes down to the ACC championship game. If SMU wins, it's pretty cut and dried. if Clemson wins, there's a little chaos, and does SMU stay up, or does Alabama jump them?
Okay, well, let's go with that.
Okay.
There's only two scenarios that can happen there.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson beats SMU.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to our pool play, the pool we can pick from the ACC, and what are some of the criteria or the pecking order when it comes to that?
Well, if that happens and SMU is not in the college football playoff, then they would be protected. In other words, they would have to play either here in Orlando or San Diego.
Okay.
So then the remaining teams would be Miami, Duke, Syracuse, and Clemson. We know Clemson can't come here.
Right.
So is Clemson in play at another spot in San Diego? Does Orlando, which really kind of has the first pick? So everything pivots off that. But again, you won't really know that until the results of the CFP on Sunday. So it'll be one of those teams that, you know, if SMU drops, then you've got SMU, Syracuse, Duke, and Miami in our pool.
And when that happens, Orlando, having the first pick, is probably going to pick Miami.
I would think so.
Now, on the other side, the
Mm-hmm.
SEC side, like you said, Georgia's probably protected for going into that.
Yeah.
We have on our board right now, we have Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Missouri, LSU, Texas A&M, and Florida. How do we get Alabama? Like, what would need to happen for us to get Alabama?
Well, Orlando has the first pick. So traditionally, they've taken the highest ranked team that's remaining there. And we know that Alabama's really not going to drop. So would Orlando take Alabama? I would think so. I don't know how you can pass on Alabama, which means that the pool then would be Ole Miss, South Carolina, Missouri, LSU, Texas A&M, and Florida. And then basically everybody wants to come to Florida. So then at that point in time, what makes the most sense? I know South Carolina, I would almost be assured that they would play in the state of Florida. They play in either Tampa or Jacksonville. Florida, it makes sense to maybe keep them here in the state of Florida when you have access to that. And so, you know, I mean, if Orlando opted to take South Carolina because they have a pick, and let's say that Alabama and Tampa, you know, I don't know how that would work. Then does Florida fall into our lap? You just don't know. And that's why all these scenarios, they're going to be a bunch more than we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. But a lot of things are in play about who would teams rather play in opponents and other conference. That's what there is a part of that too. And you're not going to be able to really answer those questions until you find out who's in the playoff and who's not.
Now, does Orlando have the same rules that we have, where you can't do a rematch?
Yes.
You can't have.
Yes.
Okay, so again, that also brings us up to something that's pretty interesting, because if you get what is it? No, my bad. There is no Alabama rematch on their own. I was thinking Alabama Clemson, but that was Georgia Clemson.
Yep.
So if Florida comes again, who picks first? I guess that would be the interesting thing. Is what if we get a sheet of paper that says the University of Florida accepts you guys accepts the Gator Bowl bid? Obviously, that erases Miami from us. Or if Miami says we want to take that, which one helps more?
Well, the SEC basically is the home team, and so they provide a team for us, and then the ACC pivots off of that pick.
Gotcha.
So again, we won't really know, and really, you don't really select teams. I mean, you voice your opinion on who you'd like, but the schools are also telling their respective conferences where they'd like to go. So you've got they're trying to create a marriage there, trying to keep everybody happy. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it doesn't work. And so a lot of this is just lucky in the roll of the dice that it works out the way you want it to work out. But, you know, it's really left up to the conferences. Like the SEC would provide us a team, and then that would pivot. In other words, if it were Florida, then it couldn't be Miami. You know, we know we can't have Clemson on the other side. So that's the only fly in the ointment is that game, Florida-Miami, can't happen. And they're both probably going to be in the pool. Miami's in the pool and Florida's in the pool for sure. But they can't come here and play each other.
Which if any year we would want to have an exception, this would be because Florida's playing really good football toward the end,
and then they play next year. Yeah, they open the season next year. So I don't think either team wants to play three times in 9 months.
But what I will say is this: as you talked about the roll of the dice, what better options to have with the roll of the dice in this scenario? You could have an LSU versus Miami game, which those games are always exciting. You have Florida versus Syracuse, two teams that actually want to probably win this to continue to cement and build upon for next year. Good offense, good defense on both sides of that. Having Missouri, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, any of those teams travel. So all that does is bring a bunch of excitement. Again, even more reason for you to go buy tickets now for the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, because even on resale, the value will still be there. Somebody will get it, but get them while they're still cheap. As Greg says, we really won't know until Sunday. And again, the only thing I can tell you is that expect the unexpected, as always, as each and every week this week in college football. It's been great. It's been a great year, especially if you're just a overall fan of college football. For everybody who says that the games mean less, that all this stuff, I don't know what football you've been watching, but these guys are out here giving it their all. So that's what we got for this week. Stay tuned for next week, as we will have the official teams for the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, and we'll talk about the bowl season coming up. What's it going to be like here at the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl for those teams and for those fans who want to come here and experience one of the greatest cities in America, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm James Coleman. This is Greg McGarity. We'll see you guys next week on the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl Driver Selection presented by Toyota.
Thank you.